Hello and happy Friday afternoon to you. Thank you for attending the most recent version of the HM Cragg webinars that we're running today. My name is Doug Lust, the East Coast Regional Manager. With us, we have Gene Abraham, technical support for the East, and our sales director, Dan Loftus. Today, we're going to go over rack enclosures. Hopefully, we get to charging stations. Um, we have Craig Watkins from Eaton, who's going to do the presentation. Everyone's going to be in mute mode until the end when we open it up for a Q&A. If you do have questions, there's a little chat bar off to the right. Type your questions in there. We'll try and get Craig's attention to get those answered. So with that, Craig, take it away.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. Like you said, Craig Watkins. I came with the acquisition of Tripp Lite to Eaton. It's almost 2 years ago now, going on 18 months. But I had been with Tripp Lite for 24 years. I started the enclosure business here at Tripp Lite about 15 years ago, 16 years ago. So I want to kind of go over what a lot of people, when Eaton took over Tripp Lite, they didn't realize how big the Tripp Lite brand was in the enclosure business. And so I want to go over with you kind of some of the successes we've seen in the market, how we've done that, and then show you all the product lines, the different ones, combining the Eaton version or the Eaton products and the Tripp Lite products coming under one roof now, and just tell you, where some of those product lines are going to go, and some are staying, some are going end of life. So I'll just start on it right away. So let's see. When keyboard was working a second ago, and now it's not. That's really bizarre. There we go. All right. So there's several different model series that, like I said, that came with the Eaton side and with Tripp Lite. The legacy Eaton side were the right line versions. The Paramount rack, it's going to continue on, and I'll go into details in the next few slides, but the Vantage line is continuing on. The next two right line versions, the V line series and the RS series, are going end of life. They actually did go end of life last year. Now, I know some of you will panic at the RS series. Don't panic yet. I will get into the detail on why we killed the RS series. The right line has the mini rack product. Those will go end of life as soon as we're working through some inventory, but there are direct crosses on the Tripp Lite side. So those will continue on, or the mini rack will go end of life. The Tripp Lite units will take over on those. And then the last three models are the Tripp Lite series that will continue on. There's no changes on that. So the first one is this Paramount. If you're familiar with the right line Eaton Paramount series, it's fully configured to order. The typical customer for a Paramount enclosure wants to put their own little fingerprint on it and make whatever changes they need to make. And so those are built per order. There's no stock on those. They are built when an order is received, but since they are built in Boston, it's a pretty decent lead time. I think it's running about 5 to 6 weeks right now. But those are available, and you can see, I won't read every bullet point for you, but you can see from 42U up to 51U, and then multiple widths and multiple depths. It's more of a high-end, high feature rich product line, but that will continue as is. Excuse me. The next one is the Vantage series. Now, some might think it checks all the same boxes as some of the product line that came over on the Tripp Lite side. So why are we leaving this Vantage series? It's less configurable. There are fewer choices in sizes. It's that bottom bullet point right there that you see. It's TAA compliant. Right now, that is our TAA compliant need for larger installs. That will be changing soon. I'll get into detail on that later, but for right now, the TAA compliant is the main feature point on this Vantage line. That's why it's living on. All right, so the RS versus SR, and people laugh like the Eaton right line RS and Tripp Lite SR. Obviously, there was no planning in how similar they are. It just happened to be that. So when we had to decide what one was going to live on, if you look at these features down the center of this page, they all check the same boxes. They are all meant to be full featured enclosures with common features or common accessories already included: side panels, leveling feet, casters. None of them are add-ons like that might happen in the Paramount series. They were going to come, you order a model and it comes with all those accessories. Excuse me. So if you look at it, the really only difference on these is the dynamic weight capacity. The Tripp Lite was 2250, the RS was 2000. They're basically the same. They're very similar in construction. If you look at all the other features, they all match one-to-one exactly. But people ask, why did we kill the RS and keep the SR? Well, the SR had a run rate many times greater than the RS. So using those economies of scale, our tooling that we had set up to build the SR line, it was just, it just made more sense for us. We have more flexibility in the sizes. We have more flexibility in our stocking program, and I'll get into how we stock things and what's available. It's just more mature. The RS line, excuse me, was only a few years old. The SR line is about 16 years old. So it was more developed on how we go to market with that. So we went forward with the SR model and the RS went end of life. But because of those economies of scale, some people might think that the Tripp Lite SR series is an inferior product because the pricing was favorable, even though it checks all the same boxes. But that's not the case. If you look at, again, these specifications down the center, like the material thickness, the structural frame, the side panels, the doors, and the equipment rails, all thicker material than the RS, meaning that that top line, the weight is heavier as well. So don't think of the SR series as, oh, well, it hits a price point, it must be quote unquote cheap. It is not. It is a full featured rack. It's heavier gauge material. It's a quality product. But like I said, most people have no idea the volumes of enclosures that we build. Therefore, they don't understand that, you know, with those economies of scale, we're able to offer that high feature rich product at the price point that's required out in the marketplace. So we'll go to the next one. Is this SR overview. So there's 9 different heights in this, and you can see, I won't read them all, but 12U all the way up to 52U. And then you see the red asterisk, that's 5 in our modular build program. And I'll explain what the modular build program is in 2 slides. But you can see a whole lot of different heights and then 3 different widths. 600 millimeter wide or just under 24 inches, the 750 millimeter, just under 30 inches. And then the 800 millimeter is our standard product in Europe. We're starting to stock more of those here in the States. The wider cabinets on current customer touch is more of the 750 millimeter, but we know it is growing towards the 800 millimeter. Excuse me. So the 800 millimeter is a little limited in inventory, and I'll get to that in a minute. We're also investigating 700 millimeter. We have a whole product line over in Asia, specifically for the Japanese market. The 700 millimeter, again, very light stock. In fact, I think 700 millimeter, very low stock, but that we're investigating on whether to increase stock here. Unless I hear from you all that we need 700 millimeter, we probably won't stock any meaningful quantities here. Just stick with the 600, 750, and 800. All right. The 5 different depths. Oh, let me go back one. Those first 2, well, all 3 of them, the first 2 are the main ones, the future on the 800 millimeter in this modular build program. On the depths, we have 5 different depths, which is pretty unique. A lot of customers or a lot of manufacturers don't get this many depth options. We did this years and years of working with different applications, anywhere from, you know, AV installs needing a very shallow depth at 32 inches to used to be our deepest was that second to last one at 46 inches. But as equipment gets deeper and deeper and these storage arrays get bigger and bigger, we've actually come out with this extra deep one. It's 48 inches. Now you see that suffix. Oh, and also all 6 of those depths. All 5 of those depths are in the modular build program. Now you see those suffixes after each one. It's like SD for shallow depth, MD for mid depth. I will be the first one to admit, if I could go back in time and start over with our naming convention, I absolutely would. But when I started this 16 years ago, I brought out one 42U and one 12U wall cabinet to just see what it did. We created a model naming convention, and then the product line expanded and grew over time. So we had to start adding suffixes onto products to tell the depth or to tell the width. And so again, they are kind of self-readers. If I could do it over again, I would, but we can't. We have too much inertia going with the consistent run rates of all these models. So just know that there are suffixes like DP for a deep enclosure or DP48 for that 48-inch deep enclosure. Now, on the modular build program, I want to tell you kind of what that is. We build all of these components at our factory in Asia. But if you put a fully built enclosure in a container, like the picture on the left, it's just a big empty box. And you can only get 36 units in a container. Well, container costs used to be cheap. It was still expensive per unit. Now with container costs and congestion and Long Beach on the ports, it's even worse. So even before the container costs went crazy, we decided to do a modular build program, and that helps us in 3 different ways. Well, one is the cost of freight to bring these into the country from our factory. We typically fill up bulk components in these containers. We'll take a 40-foot shipping container and put it with only side panels. We'll have another 40-foot shipping container, only roof panels. And over multiple containers, I think we had earlier in the year, we had 800 containers in transit filled with rack components. You can average out over multiple containers about 125 units per container instead of the 36 units per container. So it gets the freight cost into the country down a lot. The second point of this modular build program is warehouse space. With the quantities I'll show you towards the end of this presentation on how many units we hold in stock, it would take just a giant warehouse and a lot of warehouse space to stock these if we built all the different versions pre-built and stocked them. So now building as needed, we just build from our components as needed. We have units that are ready to ship that could go out on a moment's notice, based on historical run rates, and then we backfill those units by building them at our modular build program to backfill what goes out day to day. The third kind of benefit of that is the flexibility. Imagine someone wants to order a 51U cabinet, their 50U cabinet that's 750 millimeters wide, 42 inches deep, and they want the split doors that you usually see on the back of a cabinet. They want those on the front and the back. We can do that because everything's stocked in components, and we can ship those cabinets, that custom configure to order unit, in 7 to 10 days. Typically is our 7 to 10 days is where we're running right now. If we had to wait on building up units, a 50U with split front doors that's extra wide and 42 inches deep, the lead times would be significantly longer than if we just build it from these components. So that's where we're really shining on the flexibility of building these, and they're built here in Chicago, building everything locally as needed. So kind of expanding on this RS series and the flexibility or the different models that we offer. Excuse me, these are co-location cabinets. You see that picture there on the left. That's one of those exposed aggregate edge data centers, sits at the base of a cell tower. Those are the first 1, 2, 3, 4 cabinets in the far background are 2-compartment colos, and then the cabinets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nearest cabinets are 4-compartment colos. You can kindly only see 3 compartments, but there is a 4th one on the one down there. Those are 4-compartment colos. But we're going to offer, using the 42U as a base, the 45U as a base, and the 48U as a base, we're going to offer 2, 3, and 4 compartment in that 42U, and then 2 and 3 compartment in the 45 and 48U. So a lot of co-location multi-compartment options available as well. So I want to kind of talk to you about kind of some tools that you can use. I'd like to point you to the Tripp Lite website is still around. It is not going away even with the Eaton acquisition, because it's an award-winning website and it has a whole lot of resources if you do need to find some sort of an application. Unlike on the Eaton website with the Paramount racks and Vantage racks, they had a rack series page, and then there might be a PDF or a chart that says it's available in these sizes. What we do is a little differently. We go in depth and we have a product page for every single model cabinet that we produce. And it's not just a generic photo. We take the photo of that specific unit. The specs are for that specific unit. And I'll get into, so if you go to this rack landing page, you see the tabs across the top. It says it's now highlighted floor standing, and it brings up all these different depths. You can click on that and it would take you to filter down all the models that would fit in those criteria. You just clicked. If you go, here's one where I've highlighted the wall cabinets, and then it has like patch panel depth, switch depth, UPS depth, vertical orientation. You would click on those under those pictures and all the models that would show up that. And I say all the models is not just a list. Each of them would have its own web page. And so, for example, here's a model you can see on the top right. It's the SR42UB. That's our standard smart rack 42U black. It's standard width, standard depth. Like I said, I would redo the naming convention, but I can't right now. This was the original model. So you can see these bullet points. It tells you the main features of all this. It's got a bunch of images. You can click on see all images. I think lots of images for this one. It's like 14 images for this particular model. But then if you scroll down, you come across these tabs that you see at the top. And this one's the features tab, and it gives you all the features for that enclosure. And then if you go to the next one, specifications, it gives you all the specs, dimensions, package dimensions, unit dimensions, warranties, agency labels, UL 60950, any other standards that that apply. And then you go to, if you go here, let me go back a few, those tabs across the top, you see documents and downloads. If you go to here, you would go to this page here, and all of these documents pertain to that SR42UB. And so, like I said, every product has its own web page. So all of these downloads and documents would be different and only for that model page you're on. So you can see on the design resources, there's submittal drawings, there's step files, 3D CAD models, Visio stencils, BIM objects, all kinds of stuff. And again, like I said, you click on it, it's going to be for that model on there. Now, some of these, some lesser used models might not have a BIM object link, or the step file, the 3D CAD model. If you have a customer that's needing that CAD model because they're virtually building something out, we don't have those all uploaded for every single model yet. They're all available. Just if you don't see it on the web page, contact, and I'll show you how you contact us to get help. But they're all available. We can send out a step file, and so the 3D models for every model are there. Another one, so the collateral, like I said, this is the 3D model. It's on the web page, but if you don't see it, just reach out to us. We can get it to you. It's a larger project to get these uploaded on each model page, but we're right in the middle of that process. The submittal drawings that I talked about before, the submittal drawings, they'll show you kind of those blue icons across the top, the main features of the cabinet with an exploded view calling out all the different components of the cabinet. The chart in the bottom left gives you, dimensional data, packaged and unit dimension, specifications, UL standards, and then the multiple page, the next 2, 3, and 4 pages, depending on the model, will be a lot of dimensions from different views, given all the dimensions that are needed. Again, that is for every single product in this, and I'm talking down to a 2-post rack mount shelf. We'll have a submittal drawing for that shelf with all the dimensions and all the features. So lots of collateral available to you. So I want to also talk to you about these fan and filter door enclosures. We developed these about 10 years ago for the U.S. Postal Service. Back in the day in their mail sorting facilities, they had a lot of problems with paper dust clogging the servers, the airflow over the heat sinks through the servers. And so they asked if we could do a filtered rack for them. We did a 42U for them, and we had to do a lot of airflow studies and with different MERV ratings on filters that catches different particulate sizes in the air. And so based on the pleated paper filter that you can see on that middle photo where the filters are slid out, we added fans to assist airflow through those filters. You can see on the far left, you see 8 fans on that 24U model. These models are taking off like crazy. It's the highest growth rate of any enclosure series we have. Once we did that US Postal Service, we thought, you know what, people are putting this IT equipment in places it was never intended to go. Warehouses, for one. That picture on the right, you can see the red arrow pointing at that smaller cabinet that's in a warehouse that we've been sending out. We send about 20,000 units a year out of that model right there. We have for years and years and years. And again, it's in a warehouse where there's a lot of paper dust, and it's all that equipment to protect from that paper dust. I just want to bring that up because, like I said, it's the fastest growing model, and you're going to get people saying we're putting IT equipment where it was never intended to go. And so it needs a level of protection that a standard IT enclosure can't provide. So we've done this in 6U, 12, 18, 24, and 42U. The 12U, we do a floor mount version and a wall mount version. So we only have one wall mount version of this, but the rest are floor mount. And like the picture on the right is not one of these standard ones. Actually, that is a 6U. We have some other versions of that that are custom application we've done for some pretty large retail chains that don't have great air quality in their stores. So we're doing odd sizes all the time, but of the standard ones that we keep in stock for anyone, it's those units listed on the left there. Just to go into some real brief on the open frame racks, anything from 4-post floor mounted on casters, 2-post, that center picture, 2-post commodity type racks, desk mount tops, or desktop mount 2-post racks. There's 35 different SKUs in this category. A lot of them are commodity. I won't go over the features on that and bore you on that one because they are what they are. Excuse me. Wall mount, I know this is an eye chart. I won't read all of this to you, but I just want to tell you, and on the wall mount, we do the 2 main bullet points, fully enclosed and then open frame. We do a whole lot of different orientations. I mentioned vertical orientation earlier. There's a lot of vertical ones. So like you can imagine a typical 1U server, like 31 inches deep, 31 inches coming off the wall. It's going to be a lot of leverage on the wall and protrude into the room pretty far. So we have some vertical orientation where they would kind of hang, but also that picture on the left or center, that's also a server depth wall cabinet. But what we did is we turned it sideways, so it mounts against the wall on the right there. And so when it's on the wall, you can open the left and right door, which is essentially the front and back of the rack. And then the side panel that faces you comes off. You have access to all 3 sides of that cabinet for installing equipment, running cables, but it only protrudes off the wall 23.6 inches instead of 33 or 36 inches. It's tighter against the wall, just so more compact install. On the open frame ones, there's a picture on the right. We have a whole lot of versions of that. Different depths off the wall, different heights. We even have some universal ones that come with, it's like an erector set. I think it's 8U, 12U, and 22U. You can assemble in the box. You use the pieces you don't, recycle the pieces or use the pieces you need, recycle the pieces you don't, and you can kind of put it together as needed for that application. We have a lot of contractors that take that one because they don't know the final install site and how big of a rack they can fit in some of these tight spaces. So they keep this universal one in stock and then assemble it to the size that's needed for that particular location, and then just pitch the rest of the components. So we're also coming out with these NEMA enclosures. There's 30 different SKUs coming out. Actually, these things are not in stock yet. Actually, I take that back. I think there's about 15 of them in stock as of last week. 15 different SKUs. The other 15 will be in stock in the next 30 days. And it's broken up, these 30 SKUs are broken up into 10, 10, and 10. There's 10 SKUs that are NEMA 4 EIA 19-inch equipment. Excuse me. The next 10 are NEMA 3R that are also 19-inch equipment. And then the last 10 are the NEMA 4 industrial, which is that photo in the center, which are just dimensional size boxes like 10 by 10 by 6, excuse me, or 12 by 12 by 8. So there's 10 SKUs of those. Excuse me. The picture on the far right is just NEMA 3R. It has that plenum on the top, which is for filters and fans. So it is sealed. You see the door open with that the foam in place gasket around the door. Excuse me. Need to drink some water. Hold on. And then again, the mounting rails in there for standard EIA 19-inch equipment. But again, we have those in, they swing off the wall, just the door opens or the whole cabinet swings, so you have access to the back side of the equipment. And of course, a bunch of gland plates and stuff, so routing your cables out, but maintaining that watertight fitting is options or available options as well. On these NEMA cabinets, we're also expanding them to some first responder enclosures, different colors, some yellow and red for when it's a disaster, a natural disaster, that you need to have that priority network access to first responders. In some of these big buildings, like in Chicago, any building over certain square footage or height has to have its own standalone network for first responders. So we typically colored those in a different color than a standard IT or gray. So there will be 6 different SKUs coming out of those. This next one is for like edge data centers. So we developed this right before COVID hit. It was for, there's 3 ways, a few ways that these data centers do expansion. The stick build, where they're building enclosures or bringing enclosures into the facility and then installing the IoT equipment in place in their rows. Another one is sending these enclosures off to an integrator and having them stacked with all the servers and IT equipment. Man, I'm really sorry about that. And then they go through burn-in, and then those cabinets are put in a crate and sent to the final location, put in the data center. We were approached by someone that was wanting to do it a different way. They said, we're going to take these, excuse me, take these 20-foot shipping skids. Think of a 20-foot shipping container, but just skids. Mount a pod on there that would have all the IT equipment, all the cooling involved, all the like 3-phase UPS, battery backup, fire suppression, everything in an enclosed pod. And then we're going to ship it out, burn it in, full IT equipment, and ship it out to a final location. Now, these are not outdoor rated. They go indoors, but they would hook it up with power and network, and they can do a major expansion quickly. So then we started thinking, well, some of these components can be used for, it's smaller, like the one on the left, 1 IT rack and 1 cooler. And the one on the right is 2 IT racks and 1 cooler. If you look at the left, there's kind of some vertical lines about a foot off the front and a foot off the back. That's the typical depth of a standard IT enclosure. But that 1 foot on the front and that 1 foot on the back are air plenums. So you have that in-row cooler that air comes out the front of that, goes across the front face of the IT equipment, through the IT equipment to cool it. The heat exhaust comes out the back of the rack and through that other air plenum that goes back through the cooler. So the air within these pods doesn't mix with the outside air of a warehouse or the outside air wherever it's located. They're not, again, not outdoor rated, but they still don't mix with the air. They're sealed up, but not to like a NEMA 4, NEMA 3R rating. They're sealed up, but they just don't mix the air. And then the heat rejection is from that in-row cooler through the Freon piping out to the condenser, and that's how it rejects the heat. So again, these are modular systems that can be expanded as big as you need or as small as you need for these micro data center edge applications. Security. So when I pitched the security angle about a year and a half ago, it wasn't network security, encryption or software security, well-served industry. Didn't want to get into that. This is more physical hardware security. Excuse me. This security is, you all know IT enclosures, they're not the most robust thing out there. The locks on cabinets are for honest people. It's a kind of a not so well kept secret that a lot of cabinet manufacturers even use the same key code for every one. So if you have a key for a particular rack, you probably have a key for another brand rack. Single point latching on most of these IT enclosure doors doesn't take much to pop a door open if someone wanted to get in there. So with the whole PCI push, the payment card industry push, and actual physical security requirements that are coming on any server holding that payment card industry data, we decided to come out with this higher security line of cabinets. I actually just did a final design review with our engineering crew this morning. These things will be in stock in the next 60 days. Excuse me. There's a whole range of like 25U, 42U, several different wall cabinet versions, but they're just higher security. They're thicker steel or heavier gauge steel, fully recessed doors, so you can't just get your fingers or pry bar behind them, multi-point locking mechanisms, and not just little side panel latches that can be popped off with a screwdriver. There's actually internal releases on all side panels and internal releases on any, if it hinges away from the wall. It's completely unique in the industry, but we feel with the security angle coming, with all keeping that data secure, the physical security side is not well represented. So there's going to be a complete line of that coming out. I want to talk to you about custom builds real quick. This was an application where it was a large retail chain. They had 13,000 locations, and they were using a combination of consumer grade electronics and rack mount EIA 19-inch equipment. They were mounting it on a piece of plywood in a manager's office. They said, we need to come up with a different solution. So I created, excuse me, this cabinet off to the right, and you can see there's a wireless access point there. It's got a bunch of modular brackets that can hold different pieces of equipment, and they just snap in and out of these square holes with tabs. Behind that wireless access point, there's 3U of vertical EIA 19-inch space. So they were using like a Meraki switch in the back, and just plugged the 19-inch switch in the back, and then ran it to all the different equipment in the cabinet. Just go through, we do conceptual drawings, second round of drawings, manufacturing drawings over with the customer. I actually did one of these today with another project. Went over with the drawings today, and then we're making a second round of them. Then we can get into sample production. Samples we can turn around in a matter of weeks. We do testing and approval, and then second round if there's any tweaks that are needed, and then we do production ready customer sign off before we do it. So if you have a customer that has a need for racks and you don't see it on the website where all the resources I was talking about, don't assume that we can't do it. A lot of our business, I would say 35 to 40% of our whole enclosure business is stuff that you'll never see on a website. It's custom applications that we build for people as needed. Now, if you come to me and you say you need 1 or 2 cabinets in purple and a different odd size, probably not gonna happen. But if you have a deal that's a decent opportunity, and a lot of people say, well, can you give us what a decent opportunity is? I can't really. Everything's individual. I can't tell you if there's UPS involved and PDUs involved. The number of enclosures that are required is a lot less because we can spread that out over multiple product lines. But if it's someone just ordering a couple of enclosures only and they're custom, we'll probably pass on that. And I think you would too. I mean, you have bigger fish to fry on that one. But I just want to let you know that we do custom application all the time. We're really strong at it. Shelves, cable management, accessories. I'm not going to go into detail on this because there is some significant crossover from other divisions on the Eaton side that we are working through. So 2023, you're going to see more information coming out on the B-line product line and versus how the Tripp Lite stuff that came over from that acquisition, how we're going to merge those together. We're going to end of life some models on both sides. So I don't really want to get into the details now on that, but just know shelving, cable managers, accessories, it's all available. Real quick, I have a couple slides left, and then I want to talk about some inventory and who to contact. Aisle containment projects. This is a aisle containment project that we're working on. It's these polycarbonate panels and extruded aluminum. It's kind of stick built in the field, custom applications for these bigger data centers. This is a vertical orientation on a hot aisle containment. Oh, here's some pictures of it. We just did these photos about 3 months ago in Chicago facility on just a mock buildup we did in our photo room, just to show how the extrusion, they would hang from the ceiling, suspended above the racks. We do have brackets on the left hand side. Those L brackets on the left are brackets that it would mount to the cabinet if you need to, but it can be done suspended from the ceiling or mounted on top of the cabinet, either way. And then we also have these cold aisle containment, but it's more of a self-standing unit. It's kind of neat. On the configurator on the website, you can put in, like, see these fields that you fill in, number of rows of racks, 2, number of racks per row, 10. They're standard 600 millimeter wide cabinets, number of doors needed, 2, and then it'll actually spit out a CAD model of what you just put in there and give you a configuration number on the top right of the screen. So like, I need that configuration number, but that configuration number on the bottom left of standard components, it says you need that first one, that SRCTMTFRM, that's the SR containment frame. You need 3 of those. You need 2 of the next one, 2 of the next one, and 8 of the next one. So it gives you, these are standard components. Because of those standard components, it throws out this CAD model rendering of it and tells you exactly what to order, and everything's included in there. So it's just a couple of different ways to go about containment. The other one is you have someone come out, measure all the installation, we build it custom for that application. This one is for smaller installs where someone wants to just use a universal set and build it from standard components. All right. Excuse me. So product availability. Remember I said the Paramount and Vantage series, no change. The same lead time, same process. The SR series, we hold about 6,042 Us or 42U like different widths, different depth, in stock at all times, ready to ship. And then remember I said that modular build program, we backfill what we ship on a day-to-day basis. Those 6,000 units that ship out, you know, those are constantly being turned over. We hold enough component inventory for about 5,000 more cabinets that can be built within a week's time. So that can be to backfill normal run rate product or the odd configuration, like I mentioned, that split front doors on the front or some odd size from standard components. The SRW series is the wall cabinet. That W is for wall. We typically hold, and this varies up and down a few thousand every week, but it's about 65,000 wall cabinets are in stock at all times. I know this is a 12-story warehouse we have here, and it's a whole lot of wall cabinets, many floors of wall cabinets here. So we ship, we have them available, ready to ship. And then the specialty cabinets, we have, you know, pretty good inventory of various sizes, the fan filter doors, seismic cabinets that I didn't mention, acoustic cabinets that I didn't mention. We have a whole lot of odds and custom units that I didn't talk about, but they all have web pages and we have them in stock, ready to ship. And then, so last page is just remember every SKU has its own web page, and you know, all that documentation, all that collateral is available. But if you can't get your answer there, I'm here to help if you need. But here in Chicago, if you all need help, there's this CPDI sales engineering. It's a bunch of apps people that all they'll do is they'll talk with you or your customer and find a solution for you and then tell you exactly what you need to order. So That's really it for me on my side. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
All right, thank you, Craig. That was great information. This is Dan Loftus from HM Cragg. I have unmuted you, so if you have a question and want to ask it, feel free to unmute yourself. You'll have to do that, ask your question. But we do have a couple questions in the chat, Craig, that we could start with.
Okay.
First one is about SR rack and whether or not that is TAA compliant, just because it's assembled here in the US. So.
Right. So I mentioned before that Vantage line is TAA compliant, and I alluded to it. So sorry, I didn't close the loop on that. There is a plan to make the SR series TAA compliant. It is assembled in the US. It's all packaging, pallet, everything done in the US, but it is of components of a non-TAA compliant country. We're getting a ruling right now through Eaton Legal and what it takes to be that. So we have a list of items that we are going to convert from a non-TAA compliant country to a TAA compliant country, in addition to the US assembly labor and all the US packaging based materials to become TAA compliant. That's probably not going to happen until mid to late 2023, but that is in the plan because I know TAA compliant is getting bigger and bigger, especially in the political environment we're in. It could even get to be bigger soon. So it's definitely in the works.
Okay, great, thank you. And the other question is about, you touched on rack security, physical security.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if the tan locks and the Eaton reference guide are compatible with the SR rack?
Yep, they're compatible with every floor cabinet we have now. That's standard cabinet. They'll be compatible with the higher security floor cabinets. Now, our standard wall cabinets, the tan lock is not compliant, but you're talking a $1,000 lock on a $400 cabinet. It doesn't really make sense. But the high security wall cabinets that were coming out are compatible with the tan lock. So I hope you all can see that makes sense. It's not worth putting that high dollar lock on a less expensive wall cabinet, but the higher security wall cabinets will be compatible with the tan lock.
Sounds good. And one more question. This is from Jim. Hey, Jim. He's asking what's going to happen with the S-Series Eaton racks, ETN-ENC 422, 442.
Those are continuing as is right now. In fact, we've been a lot of work transferring those on different ledgers in Chicago. And so those S-Series are continuing right now. I will be honest, by 2025, 2026, we might have a different option available to end of life those. But for right now, the next couple years, they're going to continue as is. And we'll give you plenty of heads up, and we'll have a definite crossover if we do end of life those, but no plans for immediate, but it is in long term that they will be replaced.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, well, I think that'll do it. Thank you so much, Craig. Again, good information. We really appreciate it. And I'll just remind the attendees on the call that, if you have questions about any of these products, feel free to contact HM Cragg. I think you know that pretty technical and know the products pretty well. So feel free to reach out to us and we can help you with the support that you need. Thanks everybody for attending. Have a great weekend.
Thanks all.